Hello, today we're going to talk about solving absolute value equations. And so really any equations that include an absolute value. And so if we have this absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to 8, we want to find some values to make this statement true. So we're going to kind of investigate this for a brief moment, and then we'll talk about the kind of processes to solve this. So if we have this, we want to think about how can we get 8 when we have the absolute value of something equal to 8. And so we should be able to recognize that there are two possible options. So we could get this to be 8, or we could have this be negative 8. So somehow we have to figure out how we can get x minus 5 to be 8 or to be negative 8. And so we can think in our heads that we could say like x minus 5, is equal to 8, and that's really what we're solving. Or we can set it up to say x minus 5 is equal to negative 8. And so we can solve this to say 13, which should make sense because 13 minus 5 will give us 8, and we know the absolute value of 8 is 8. But this will also give us, if we add 5, of negative 3. And so that one is a little bit more challenging to see at first, but when you think about the absolute value, we can just always have the positive version or the negative version. And so what we want to do is to set this, and so both of these would satisfy this equation. So creating this kind of process over and over again is that we want to get the absolute value by itself, and then we want to set up the two equations where it's equal to the positive version, opposite of the absolute value, and the negative version. And you're going to get two answers, and you want to check both of those to confirm that they do work. Okay, so we're going to be kind of following this process throughout, using the same concept of what we just talked about, but this is more that process of finding that on a more regular basis. So if we have the absolute value of 3x plus 8, we cannot do anything with the absolute value of 3x plus 8. There's nothing on the outside. There's nothing adding. So we are just going to have that step one that we just talked about, isolating the absolute values by itself. Okay, so what we have is two problems, because we can, again, the way to get the absolute value of 29 is either having 29 or negative 29. So we can set up this inside to say, or the absolute value, of this to say 3x plus 8 is equal to 29, or this is equal to negative 29. That's the only way we can get this to satisfy both sides, or the absolute value. So we can solve this and get x equals 7, and we can solve this and get that. Okay, we do need to check just to confirm that we have this correct. So if I were to check this, we can say 3 times 7 plus 8. And then that's going to be the absolute value of 21 plus 8 is 29. And 29 does equal 29. Okay, if we check this one, so the fraction part might be a little bit challenging at first, but you'll see that they do kind of cancel each other out. So we have 3 times negative 37 over 3 plus 8 is equal to 29. And then this is going to result in negative 37 plus 8. And then negative 37 plus 8 is negative 29. And the absolute value of that is 29. So we know that both of these are good answers. Okay, moving on. Same kind of thing, but now we have this plus 2 with the absolute value. We just want to isolate that by subtracting 2 to start. And then once we do that, we have the same exact kind of problem. We have it equal to 15. The only way to get this to be true is if what's inside the absolute value is either 15 or negative 15. So we can say x minus 5 is equal to 15. X minus 5 is equal to negative 15. And then solve. This will give us x equals 20. And this will give us x equals negative 10. Okay, and if we check those, it's kind of easy to check these mentally, thinking about inside the absolute value. 20 minus 5 is 15. Absolute value of 15 is 15, plus 2 is 17. And we plug in negative 10. Negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. Absolute value of that is positive 15. And adding to 2 will give you 17, so we know that both of those do work. Okay? We look at moving on to something that's a little bit more challenging because there's something else included, is that we have this plus 7, very similar to what we did before. So we're going to subtract that 7 to get 15. Now, with parentheses and everything like that, we're able to kind of do some other things to be able to solve. With absolute value, we are stuck now because we have isolated the absolute value. The stuff inside is going to cause some more solving afterwards. But the only way to get this to work is if that inside is equal to 15 or negative 15. So you can distribute and solve that way, or you can divide by 3 to start. And we will get 9. You can, like I said, distribute this. That's a negative 15. You can distribute this, or you can say that this is negative 5. When we add that over, we're going to get negative 1. So if we plug this back in up top, 3, we're going to have x minus 4 is going to be 9 minus 4, which is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Again, absolute value of 15 is going to be 15 plus 7 is 22. And then if we do the same thing on the other side, we do negative 1. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Absolute value of that is positive 15. And so we're going to end up with 15 plus 7 does give us 22.